I didn't notice it at first. That's probably the craziest part about all of this, because once I did notice it, I couldn't unsee it anymore. Arnold was always around. Not in an obvious way. Not like he was following me or anything weird like that. It was more subtle, like he just kept ending up wherever I was, like it was coincidence every single time. At least, that's what I told myself in the beginning. It started a few weeks after I moved into the new apartment complex. Nothing fancy, just one of those modern buildings near campus with thin walls, overpriced rent, and a gym nobody actually used. I mostly kept to myself: classes, part-time job, late-night gaming. Simple life. Then there was Arnold. He lived 2 doors down. I met him the way you meet most neighbors: awkward hallway interaction, both of us trying to unlock our doors at the same time. "Hey," he said, giving me a quick nod. He had that kind of voice, low, calm, like he didn't waste words. Taller than me by a couple inches, broad shoulders, always wearing something simple like a hoodie or a fitted t-shirt. The kind of guy you'd assume had his life together. "Trevor," I said, jerking my thumb toward my door. "Arnold." That was it. No handshake, no small talk. Just names. But after that, he started showing up. At first, it was little things. I'd go down to grab coffee from the place across the street, and somehow Arnold would already be there, leaning against the counter, scrolling on his phone. "You come here a lot?" he asked once, glancing up at me like it was casual. "Yeah, I guess." He nodded like that meant something, like he was filing it away. Then it was the gym. I never used the apartment gym. Not really my thing. But one night, I figured I'd try to fix my sleep schedule, maybe burn off some energy. I go down there, headphones in, already regretting it. And Arnold's there. Of course he is. Standing by the weights, sleeves pushed up, like he'd been there for a while. He looked over, not surprised. "Didn't think you were the gym type?" I pulled one earbud out. "I'm not." A small smirk tugged at his mouth. "Yeah. I figured." It should have felt random. But it didn't. Because it kept happening. "Laundry room?" "Arnold's there, acting like he just happened to need the machine next to mine." "Parking lot?" "He's getting out of his car right as I'm walking by." Even dumb stuff, like I mentioned once, that I like this late-night taco truck a few blocks away. Next weekend I see him there. Leaning against the side of the truck, already holding a plate. "You weren't kidding," he said, like we had some inside joke. "This place is actually good." That's when something in my chest tightened. Because it didn't feel like coincidence anymore. It felt like he was paying attention. And the worst part? I didn't hate it. I tried to act normal about it. Told myself I was overthinking. I mean, it wasn't like he was doing anything wrong. If anything, Arnold was easy to be around. Quiet, but not awkward. Confident, but not in your face about it. We started talking more. Short conversations at first, then longer ones. Sometimes we'd end up standing in the hallway for like 20 minutes, just talking about random stuff, classes, work, stupid things we saw online. And he listened. Like, actually listened. Not the fake kind where people just wait for their turn to talk. Arnold would remember things. Bring them up days later like they mattered. "You said you had that exam today, right?" he asked one afternoon, catching me by the mailboxes. I blinked. "Yeah, how'd you?" "You mentioned it." Simple as that. But it stuck with me. Because no one really did that. Days turned into weeks, and somewhere along the way, it stopped feeling strange that Arnold was always around. It started feeling expected. Like if I didn't run into him, something was off. And then one night, that feeling hit harder than I expected. I got back late. Work had been exhausting, and all I wanted was to crash. The hallway was quiet, lights dim, that weird late-night stillness settling in. I was halfway to my door when I saw him. Arnold. Sitting on the floor outside his apartment. At first, I thought something was wrong. But he didn't look upset. Just waiting. His head lifted when he heard my footsteps. "There you are," he said. Not "hey." Not "what's up." "There you are." Like he'd been expecting me. I frowned slightly, keys still in my hand. "You good?" He stood up slowly, brushing his hands off his jeans. "Yeah." A pause. Then, quieter. "Just didn't feel like being inside." Something about the way he said it didn't fully land. It felt like there was more behind it, something he wasn't saying. I hesitated. "You've been out here long?" Arnold shrugged, but his eyes stayed on me. "Long enough." That same tight feeling settled in my chest again. Because suddenly, all those coincidences replayed in my head differently. The coffee shop. The gym. The taco truck. The way he remembered everything I said. The way he always seemed to show up. Like he was always looking for a reason to be around me. And standing there in that quiet hallway, with him watching me like that, I realized something that made my pulse pick up. I didn't know if it was accidental anymore. And I wasn't sure I wanted it to be. That realization should have made me pull back. Create some distance. Maybe stop lingering in the hallway, stop letting conversations stretch longer than they needed to. But I didn't. If anything, I leaned into it. I told myself it was harmless. That Arnold just liked being around people he got along with. And yeah, maybe I was reading too much into it. Except, the feeling didn't go away. It got stronger. After that night, things shifted, just slightly, but enough for me to notice. Arnold didn't just run into me anymore. He started waiting. Not in a creepy way. Nothing that obvious. But I'd open my door in the morning, and there he'd be, stepping out at the same time like the timing lined up too perfectly. "Heading out?" he'd ask, already falling into step beside me. Or I'd come back from class, and his door would open a second later. Like he'd heard me. Like he'd been listening. And the thing is, I started noticing him just as much. The sound of his door. His footsteps in the hallway. Even dumb things, like the way he cleared his throat before speaking, or how he always ran a hand through his hair when he was thinking. It got under my skin in a way I wasn't prepared for. One evening, we ended up on the rooftop. It wasn't planned. At least I don't think it was. I'd gone up there to get some air, headphones in, trying to clear my mind after a long day. The city looked different at night, quieter somehow, even with all the lights. I leaned against the railing, exhaling slowly. "Couldn't sleep either?" I turned, and there he was. Arnold. "Of course." I let out a short laugh, pulling one earbud out. "You always do that?" "Do what?" "Just show up." He tilted his head slightly, like he was considering the question instead of brushing it off. "Maybe," he said. That wasn't the answer I expected. I raised an eyebrow. "That's kind of vague." Arnold stepped closer, stopping beside me at the railing. Not too close, but close enough that I could feel the heat coming off him. "Maybe I just like the same places you do." His tone was calm, but there was something underneath it. Something that made my chest tighten again. I looked out over the city, trying to play it cool. "That's a lot of coincidence." "Is it?" I glanced at him. Big mistake. Because he was already looking at me. Not casually. Not like before. This was different. Focused. Like he wasn't even pretending anymore. For a second, neither of us said anything. The air felt heavier, like the space between us had shifted into something I couldn't quite name yet. Then he exhaled quietly, looking away like he'd gone a step too far. "Sorry," he muttered. "That sounded weird." I shook my head quickly. "No, it's just..." I stopped. Because I didn't even know what I was about to say. That I noticed it too? That I didn't mind? That maybe I liked it? Arnold glanced back at me, studying my face like he was trying to read something. "You ever feel like..." He started, then hesitated. "Like what?" He huffed out a quiet breath. Almost like he was debating whether to say it at all. "Like you keep ending up around the same person for a reason." My pulse picked up. There it was. Not coincidence. Not accidental. A reason. I swallowed, forcing out a small, nervous laugh. What, like fate or something? Arnold's lips twitched, but he didn't smile. Something like that. The way he said it, low, steady, it didn't feel like a joke. It felt like he meant it. And suddenly, all those moments replayed again in my head, but this time, clearer. He wasn't just ending up around me. He was choosing it. Every time. I leaned back against the railing, trying to steady myself. So what, you're saying all this is intentional? Arnold didn't answer right away. Instead, he turned fully toward me. That same intense look settling in his eyes again. And this time, he didn't look away. Yeah, he said finally. Simple. Direct. No hesitation. My breath caught. Because there it was. No more guessing. No more overthinking. He was always around. Because he wanted to be. And for some reason, instead of pulling back, I stepped closer. Not even consciously. Just instinct. Why? I asked quietly. Arnold's gaze flickered down to my lips for the briefest second before coming back up. You really don't know? My heart started pounding harder. I should have said something. Should have made a joke, brushed it off, changed the subject. Anything. But I didn't. Because I did know. I just wanted to hear him say it. The silence stretched between us, thick and charged, like something was about to snap. Arnold took a slow breath, his jaw tightening slightly. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you, he admitted. My stomach flipped. Tell me what? He let out a quiet, almost frustrated laugh, running a hand through his hair again. This, he said, gesturing vaguely between us. Whatever this is. The way he said it, it wasn't smooth or practiced. It was real. Messy. And that made it hit harder. I swallowed, my voice coming out lower than I expected. And what is it? Arnold's eyes locked onto mine again. Something softer flickering there now, but no less intense. I think, he said slowly, I just needed a reason to be around you. My chest tightened. Not in a bad way. In a way that made it hard to breathe. Because that wasn't casual. That wasn't nothing. That was... Arnold, I started, but my voice trailed off. Because I didn't know what came next. Did I push him away? Did I admit I felt it too? Did I even understand what I was feeling? He took a small step closer. Close enough now that there was barely any space left between us. You can tell me to back off, he said quietly. If this is too much. But he didn't move. Didn't look away. Just stood there, waiting. For me. And that's when I realized something that made my pulse spike even harder. I didn't want him to stop. I don't know what I expected to happen in that moment. Maybe for him to step back. Maybe for me to laugh it off and kill the tension before it got out of control. But neither of us moved. Arnold was still standing there, close enough that I could feel his breath when he exhaled. Close enough that if either of us leaned in even a little. Yeah. That kind of close. You're not saying anything, he murmured. His voice was quieter now. Not uncertain, but careful. Like he didn't want to push too hard. I swallowed, trying to get my thoughts in order, but they were all over the place. My heart was beating way too fast for this to be casual anymore. I'm thinking, I said. Arnold huffed out a soft breath, almost like a faint smile. That's usually not a good sign. Shut up, I muttered, but there was no real bite to it. If anything, it just made the tension shift, soften slightly, without actually going away. He tilted his head a little, studying me again. God, he did that a lot, look at me like he was trying to figure me out. You don't look uncomfortable, he said. That caught me off guard. I'm not, I admitted before I could stop myself. His eyes flickered, just slightly, but I caught it. Something in them sharpened. Okay, he said slowly. Another step closer. Now there was basically no space left between us. My back hit the railing, and I hadn't even realized I'd been moving until I felt the cold metal against me. Arnold noticed too. Of course he did. His gaze dropped for a second, like he was aware of exactly what that meant, the position I was in. Trapped wasn't the right word. But yeah? Close. You can still tell me to stop, he said again, softer this time. But his body didn't move away. If anything, he leaned in just slightly, testing. Waiting. I shook my head barely. I'm not gonna tell you to stop. The words came out quieter than I expected, but they felt solid. Real. And the second I said it, something shifted in him. Not dramatic. Just a release. Like he'd been holding himself back, and I'd just given him permission not to. Yeah? He asked. I nodded. That was all it took. His hand came up, slow, deliberate, like he was giving me time to pull away if I wanted to. I didn't. His fingers brushed lightly against my arm at first. Barely there. Just enough to test the space between us. My breath hitched. It wasn't even a big touch. But it felt like one. Because it was him. Because of everything that had been building up to this. You sure? He asked again, voice lower now. I let out a shaky breath. Arnold. I need to hear it. God. I dragged a hand through my hair, frustrated at how much this was getting to me. I'm sure, okay? That was all he needed. His hand slid from my arm to my side, fingers curling just slightly against my shirt, not grabbing, not pulling, just holding. Like he wanted to feel that I was actually there. He stepped in the rest of the way. My chest pressed against his. And everything in my head just went quiet. No overthinking. No second guessing. Just this. This moment. His other hand came up, hovering near my jaw for half a second before he actually touched me. Warm. Steady. Tilting my face up just enough so I couldn't look anywhere but at him. You have no idea what you do to me, he said quietly. That sent something straight through my chest. Then tell me. I shot back, before I could think better of it. His lips twitched slightly, like he wasn't expecting that. Careful what you ask for, Trevor. Just, I exhaled sharply. Stop talking and... I didn't even finish the sentence. Because he kissed me. And it wasn't hesitant. It wasn't rushed either. It was intentional. Like everything else he did. His hand tightened slightly at my side, pulling me just enough into him as his lips pressed against mine. For a second I froze. Not because I didn't want it. But because it felt real. All those moments. All that tension. This was it. And then my brain caught up, and I kissed him back. And yeah, that changed everything. His grip on me shifted, stronger now, more certain. The hesitation from before? Gone. One of my hands came up without me even thinking, grabbing lightly at his hoodie, pulling him closer like there was any space left to close. There wasn't. But I still did it. His breath hitched against my mouth, and I felt it, that subtle break in his control. Like he'd been holding back way more than he let on. The kiss deepened, slower but heavier, like neither of us was in a rush to pull away. Like we'd both been waiting for this longer than we realized. And somewhere in the middle of it, I understood. All those coincidences? They weren't random. He'd been choosing this. Choosing me. Over and over again. And now, I was choosing him too. When we finally pulled back, it wasn't far. Our foreheads almost touching, breaths uneven, the space between us still charged with everything that just happened. Arnold let out a quiet exhale, like he was trying to steady himself. Yeah, he murmured. I let out a small, breathless laugh. Yeah. For a second, either of us moved. Then his thumb brushed lightly along my side, almost absent-minded. So, I said, still catching my breath. This your whole plan? He smirked slightly. Took longer than I wanted. I rolled my eyes, but I couldn't stop the small smile pulling at my mouth. You're insane, you know that? Maybe, he said. His gaze softened, just a little. But it worked. And standing there, still way too close to him, heart still racing. I couldn't even argue with that. The thing about moments like that, they don't just fade away. They stick. In your head. In your chest. In the way everything suddenly feels just a little different after. That night on the rooftop? Yeah, it didn't end with that kiss. But it also didn't go where you'd probably expect. We stayed there for a while after, still leaning against the railing, still too close, like neither of us really knew how to reset back to normal. Not that normal even existed anymore. Arnold didn't move away right away. His hand stayed at my side, thumb brushing lightly like he didn't even realize he was doing it. And I didn't tell him to stop. You okay? He asked after a minute. I let out a quiet breath, nodding. Yeah, just processing. He huffed a soft laugh. Yeah. Same. There was something almost relieving about that. Like I wasn't the only one feeling it. We didn't talk about it right away. No big conversation, no labels, no. What are we? Moment. Just quiet. Comfortable, but charged. Eventually, we headed back down. Same hallway, same doors, same everything, but it felt completely different now. I stopped outside my apartment, keys in hand. Arnold stood there with me, not saying anything at first. That tension crept back in, softer this time, but still there. So, I started. Yeah, he said at the same time. We both paused, then laughed under our breath. You go first, I said. Arnold glanced at me, then away, like he was choosing his words carefully. This doesn't have to be weird, he said. I raised an eyebrow. Feels a little late for that. A small smile pulled at his mouth. You know what I mean? I did. He wasn't trying to complicate it. Wasn't trying to rush anything or pin it down into something heavy right away. And honestly, I appreciated that. Yeah, I said after a second. It doesn't have to be. Another pause. Then his gaze flickered back to me, a little more serious now. But I meant what I said, he added. About wanting to be around you. My chest tightened again, but this time, it wasn't overwhelming. It felt steady. I know, I said quietly. And I did. That was the thing. Nothing about Arnold felt fake. Not the way he showed up, not the way he looked at me, not even the way he admitted things he probably wasn't used to saying out loud. It was all intentional. And for some reason, that mattered more than anything. He nodded once, like that was enough for now. All right, he said. I'll let you get some sleep. But he didn't move. Neither did I. And yeah, we both noticed. I let out a small breath, shaking my head slightly. You're really bad at leaving. He smirked. You're not exactly making it easy. Well, I muttered. Blaming me already? Not blaming, he said, stepping just a little closer again. Just stating facts. There it was again. That pull. Subtle, but impossible to ignore. I looked up at him, and for a second, everything else faded out, the hallway, the late hour, the fact that this was all happening way faster than I expected. You always like this? I asked. Like what? Persistent. His expression softened slightly. Only when it matters. That hit harder than it should have. I swallowed, my voice coming out quieter. And this matters? Arnold didn't hesitate. Yeah, he said. Just like that. No overthinking. No hesitation. And something about that made it really hard to keep pretending this was casual. Because it wasn't. Not anymore. I exhaled slowly, then stepped forward just enough to close that small gap between us again. Good, I said. His eyes flickered, like he wasn't expecting me to meet him halfway like that. But he didn't waste time questioning it. His hand came up again, this time more naturally, like he already knew where it belonged, resting at my side, pulling me in just slightly. Good, he echoed. And yeah, We kissed again. Shorter this time. Less hesitant. Like we'd already crossed that line, and now it didn't feel like a big leap anymore. Just something we both wanted. When we pulled back, there was a faint smile on his face, subtle, but real. "I'll see you tomorrow," he said. Not maybe. Not if. Just, "I will." I nodded, unable to stop the small smile on my own face. "Yeah," I said. "You will." This time, he actually stepped back. Turned. Walked to his door. But right before he went inside, he glanced over his shoulder at me. That same look. Focused. Intentional. Like he was already thinking about the next time. The next reason. The next moment he'd find to be around me. And standing there in that quiet hallway, watching him disappear into his apartment, I realized something that should have probably worried me more than it did. I wasn't waiting for coincidences anymore either. I was starting to look for him. The next morning felt off. Not in a bad way. Just different. Like everything had shifted slightly, even though nothing around me had actually changed. Same apartment. Same routine. Same half-dead plant sitting on my windowsill. But my brain wouldn't shut up. I kept replaying it. The rooftop. The way he said it, "I just needed a reason to be around you." The way he looked at me like it wasn't casual, like it actually meant something. And yeah, the kiss. Definitely the kiss. I dragged a hand down my face, letting out a slow breath as I stood in my kitchen, staring at my coffee like it might somehow fix my thoughts. It didn't. If anything, it made it worse. Because now I was waiting. Listening. For the sound of his door. Which was new. I wasn't like this before. I didn't sit around thinking about whether someone else was awake, whether they'd step into a hallway at the same time as me. But now? Yeah. Now I noticed. And the second I heard that faint click from down the hall, his door opening, my chest did this stupid, immediate tightening. I grabbed my keys before I could overthink it and stepped out. Perfect timing. Of course. Arnold was locking his door when he looked up and saw me. And just like that, there it was again, that small shift in his expression. Not surprise, not exactly. More like recognition. Like this was expected. "Morning," he said. "Morning." We stood there for a second, both of us clearly aware of what had happened less than 12 hours ago, and also pretending we weren't about to make it weird. It almost worked. Almost. "You heading out?" he asked. "Yeah." "Class?" He nodded. "Same. Of course." We fell into step beside each other, walking down the hallway like we had 100 times before. Except now, every little thing felt louder. The space between our arms. The way our shoulders almost brushed when we turned the corner. The silence. Not awkward. Just aware. I shoved my hands in my pockets, glancing at him. "So we're just gonna act normal?" Arnold glanced back, one eyebrow lifting slightly. "Define normal." I huffed out a quiet laugh. "You know what I mean." He didn't answer right away. Instead, his gaze lingered on me for a second longer than necessary. "We can," he said finally. "If that's what you want." That wasn't a yes. That was a your move. I looked ahead again, exhaling slowly. I don't know what I want yet. Honest. Probably more honest than I meant to be out loud. But Arnold didn't seem thrown off by it. "All right," he said simply. No pressure. No weird reaction. Just accepting it. And somehow, that made it easier. We stepped outside, the cool morning air hitting immediately. Students moving around, cars passing, normal life continuing like nothing had changed. But something had. Even if we weren't saying it yet. "Hey," Arnold said as we reached the edge of the parking lot. I turned toward him. He hesitated for half a second, just enough to show he was choosing his words again. "Last night," he started. "Here we go." My chest tightened slightly. But his voice stayed steady. "I'm not gonna pretend it didn't happen." "Good." Me neither, I said. A faint smirk tugged at his mouth, like that was the answer he was hoping for. Good, he repeated. There was that word again. Good. It shouldn't have meant anything. But coming from him, it did. He shifted his weight slightly. Then added, But I'm also not gonna rush you. That caught me off guard. I blinked. Rush me? Yeah, he said. Into figuring it out. I studied him for a second, trying to read if there was any pressure hiding behind that. There wasn't. If anything, he meant it. And that made something in my chest settle a little. I appreciate that, I said. Arnold nodded once, like that was enough. Then, after a beat, But I'm still gonna be around. I couldn't help it, I smiled. Yeah, I said. I figured. His eyes held mine for a second longer, something warm flickering there. Not intense like before. Not overwhelming. Just real. See you later, Trevor. And then he turned, heading toward his car like nothing about that moment was complicated. Like he hadn't just completely shifted something in my life without even trying. I stood there for a second after he left, watching him go. And the weird part? I didn't feel confused anymore. Not completely. There were still questions, sure. But underneath all of that, there was something else. Something quieter. Something steady. Because no matter what this turned into, one thing was already clear. Arnold wasn't going anywhere. And for the first time, I wasn't sure I wanted him to. I tried to keep things normal. I really did. Go to class, focus on lectures, pretend like my brain wasn't drifting every 5 minutes back to Arnold. His voice, the way he looked at me, the way he said I'm still gonna be around like it wasn't even a question. It didn't work. By the time I got home that afternoon, I was already on edge again. Not anxious. Just aware. Like I was waiting for something without wanting to admit it. I unlocked my door, stepped inside, tossed my bag onto the couch, and then paused. Silence. No movement in the hallway. No sound from his place. I don't know why that bothered me. It shouldn't have. But after everything, the quiet felt off. I shook it off, heading into the kitchen, grabbing a drink, trying to distract myself. Turned on the TV, scrolled through my phone, anything to stop overthinking. Didn't last long. Because about 20 minutes later, there it was. A knock. Not loud. Just enough. My chest tightened instantly. I already knew it was him. I walked to the door, hesitating for half a second before opening it. Arnold. Leaning casually against the frame like this was nothing. Like he hadn't been on my mind all day. Hey, he said. Hey. We both just stood there for a second. God, this was getting ridiculous. You gonna keep me out here or? He asked, one eyebrow lifting slightly. I stepped back immediately. Right. Yeah, come in. He walked past me, and the second he did, I noticed it again, that quiet confidence he had. Not cocky. Just comfortable. Like he already knew he belonged in my space. That thought hit harder than I expected. I closed the door behind him. What's up? Arnold glanced around briefly before looking back at me. Nothing urgent. I crossed my arms slightly. Then why are you here? He didn't even hesitate. Told you, he said. I'd find a reason. My stomach flipped. There it was again. That directness. No games. No pretending. Just him, being honest in a way most people aren't. I let out a quiet breath, trying not to let it get to me as much as it did. So this is your thing now? What? Just showing up. A small smirk pulled at his mouth. You complaining? I opened my mouth. Paused. Because I didn't have a real answer. No, I admitted. His expression softened slightly, like that mattered. Good. There was a brief silence, but it didn't feel awkward. If anything, it felt heavier than that. Like something was building again, just under the surface. Arnold took a step closer. Not rushed. Not hesitant either. Just steady. You've been thinking about it, he said. Not a question. A statement. I let out a quiet, almost annoyed laugh. You say that like you haven't. He tilted his head slightly. Didn't say I haven't. Of course he hadn't. I dragged a hand through my hair, exhaling. Yeah. I've been thinking about it. About what? I looked at him. You know what? He held my gaze. Not backing down. Say it. God. I hated that he did that. Made me actually say things instead of skating around them. This, I said finally, gesturing between us. Whatever this is. Arnold nodded slowly. And, I hesitated, searching for the right words. It doesn't feel like nothing. That was probably the most honest way to put it. His expression shifted again, not surprised, but like something clicked into place. Yeah, he said quietly. It doesn't. The space between us felt smaller again. Like we were being pulled back into that same gravity from the night before. You still unsure? He asked. I didn't answer right away. Because the truth? I was. But not in the way I expected. It wasn't about whether I wanted him. That part was getting harder and harder to deny. It was about what it meant. What it could turn into. What happens after something like this starts. I don't like not knowing where this goes, I admitted. Arnold studied me for a second. Then don't think that far ahead. I frowned slightly. That's easy for you to say. Not really, he said. I've just already decided something you haven't. That caught me off guard. What? He stepped closer again. Close enough that I could feel that same tension creeping back in. That I want this, he said. Simple. Clear. No hesitation. My chest tightened. And I don't need to know exactly where it ends to know that. That hit. Hard. Because I was doing the opposite, trying to map out something that hadn't even fully started yet. Arnold's hand lifted slightly, like he was about to touch me, but paused. Waiting. Still giving me that choice. That space. And this time, I didn't make him wait. I stepped into him first. Closed the distance. His hand settled against my side instantly, like it belonged there now. You're making this really hard to overthink, I muttered. He huffed a quiet laugh. Good. And then, I kissed him again. No hesitation this time. No pause. Just want. And yeah, it hit different now. Because it wasn't just tension anymore. It was something building. Something real. His grip tightened slightly, pulling me closer, more certain than before. Like whatever line we crossed last night. We weren't going back. And honestly, I didn't want to. When we finally broke apart, both of us breathing a little heavier, Arnold rested his forehead lightly against mine. See? He murmured. I let out a quiet breath. Yeah. A small pause. Then I added. Still don't know what this is. His lips brushed faintly against mine again, barely there. Then we figure it out, he said. And for the first time since this all started. That didn't feel overwhelming. It felt right. If you had asked me a week ago what this was going to turn into, I would have said nothing. Maybe some tension, maybe a weird almost moment, and then we'd both go back to being normal neighbors who pretended never happened. That's how these things usually go. But this? Yeah, this wasn't that. Because once it started, it didn't slow down. Arnold didn't suddenly disappear or pull back after we crossed that line. If anything, he got more present. Not overwhelming. Not suffocating. Just there. Consistently. And somehow, that was worse. Or better. I still hadn't decided. It showed up in small ways at first. Like how he'd knock on my door instead of waiting to run into me. Or how we'd end up sitting on my couch, talking about nothing for hours, like it was the most natural thing in the world. No pressure. No labels. Just time. And yeah, Sometimes it turned into more. Not rushed. Not reckless. Just that same steady pull between us that neither of us was pretending wasn't there anymore. But the real shift? It wasn't the physical stuff. It was everything else. Like the way he started staying. Not just dropping by. Staying. One night turned into two. Then into this quiet routine where he'd end up at my place more often than not. We'd order food, watch something neither of us was really paying attention to, and at some point, the space between us would disappear without either of us acknowledging it. Like it was inevitable. Like it was supposed to happen. And that should have felt easy. Simple. But it didn't. Because the more time we spent like that, the harder it got to pretend this didn't mean something. That it wasn't going somewhere. And I wasn't the only one feeling it. I noticed it in him too. The way he'd go quiet sometimes, like he was thinking about something he wasn't saying. The way his hand would linger a little longer than before. The way he looked at me. Not just focused anymore. Something deeper. Something heavier. And yeah, that's when it started getting complicated. It happened one night. Nothing dramatic. No big moment leading up to it. We were just sitting on my couch, late, the TV casting that soft glow across the room. I don't even remember what we were watching. I just remember the silence. Comfortable, but loaded. Arnold was sitting close, his arm resting along the back of the couch behind me, fingers occasionally brushing my shoulder like it was absent-minded. But I knew it wasn't. "You're quiet," he said after a while. I glanced at him. "So are you." A small pause. Then he looked at me fully. And something in his expression made my chest tighten immediately. "What?" I asked. He hesitated. That alone was enough to tell me this wasn't nothing. Arnold didn't hesitate. "Not like this." "You ever gonna tell me what's going on in your head?" he asked. I let out a quiet breath, leaning back slightly. "You first." He huffed a faint laugh. "Deflecting. Nice. Learn from the best." That earned a small smirk, but it didn't last. Because whatever this was, it wasn't going away. Not tonight. His hand dropped from the back of the couch, settling against my arm instead. Warmer. More deliberate. "I meant what I said," he murmured. I frowned slightly. "About what?" "Not needing to know where this ends." My chest tightened again. "Yeah. That. I remember," I said. Arnold nodded slowly. "But that doesn't mean I'm not thinking about it." There it was. The thing I'd been trying not to think about too much. Now sitting right between us. I looked away for a second, exhaling. "Yeah, me too." Silence. He didn't push. Didn't rush me. Just waited. Like he always did. And for some reason, that made it harder to avoid. "Arnold," I started then stopped. Because I didn't know how to say it without making it real. "What?" he asked quietly. I ran a hand through my hair, frustrated. "This doesn't feel temporary," I admitted. "There. Out. No taking it back." I expected him to brush it off. Or downplay it. But he didn't. "Good," he said. I blinked, caught off guard. "Good?" "Yeah." He shifted closer, his hand tightening slightly on my arm. "Because it's not." That hit harder than anything else so far. Not "I hope it isn't." Not "maybe it won't be." Just, "It's not." Like he'd already decided. Like there was no version of this where he walked away. I searched his face, trying to see if there was any hesitation, any doubt. There wasn't. And that's what scared me. Because I wasn't there yet. I wanted to be. But I wasn't. "You sound really sure about that," I said quietly. "I am." "Why?" That made him pause. Just for a second. Then his gaze softened, just slightly, but enough to change everything. "Because I don't do things halfway," he said. My chest tightened again. "And you think this is, what? Something serious?" Arnold didn't look away. "This?" he said, gesturing between us. Yeah. I think it could be. Not overwhelming. Not forcing it. But honest. And somehow, that was worse. Because now it wasn't just me overthinking. It was real. Sitting right in front of me. I swallowed, my voice quieter now. And if I'm not there yet? Arnold's expression didn't change. Didn't close off. Didn't pull away. Then you're not there yet, he said simply. No pressure. No frustration. Just acceptance. But his hand didn't move. His eyes didn't leave mine. And I'll still be here, he added. That was the part that got me. Not the words. Not the idea of something serious. It was that. I'll still be here. Like he wasn't going anywhere. Like he wasn't waiting for me to catch up. He was just choosing to stay. And yeah, that's when it really hit me. This wasn't casual. This wasn't temporary. This wasn't just someone looking for a reason to be around. He already found it. And now, he wasn't leaving. I let out a slow breath, my head dropping forward slightly until it almost rested against his shoulder. You're making this really hard to keep simple, I muttered. I felt his hand shift, sliding up slightly, more grounding than before. Good, he said softly. And for once, I didn't argue. After that night, things didn't explode into something dramatic. There wasn't some big moment where everything suddenly made sense. It was quieter than that. But somehow, heavier too. Because once something like that gets said out loud, once you admit it's not temporary, that it could be something real, you don't get to go back to pretending. And I didn't. I couldn't. The next few days felt different again. Not tense. Not uncertain. Just settled. Like something between us had clicked into place, even if we hadn't defined it yet. Arnold didn't change. That's the thing. He didn't suddenly become distant, didn't pull back, didn't act like he'd said too much. If anything, he stayed exactly the same. Still showing up. Still choosing to be around. Still looking at me like I was something he'd already decided on. And yeah, that did something to me. Because I realized something I hadn't let myself fully admit before. I was starting to do the same thing. Not waiting for him. Not hoping to run into him. But actually, choosing him. There was no moment where I sat down and made that decision. It just happened. Like the night I came home late again, tired, head full of everything except what I actually needed to think about. And instead of going straight inside, I stopped outside his door. Just stood there for a second. Staring at it. Heart doing that same annoying, tight thing it always did when he was involved. I don't even know what I was planning to say. Didn't matter. Because before I could overthink it, the door opened. Arnold. Of course. Like he felt me there. His eyes flicked to mine, and for a second either of us said anything. There you are, he said. Same words. Same tone. But this time, it hit differently. Because now I understood it. He wasn't surprised to see me. He expected it. Just like I expected him. I let out a small breath, leaning lightly against the doorframe. Yeah, I said. Here I am. A faint smile pulled at his mouth. You gonna come in, or just stand there looking like you're thinking too hard again? I rolled my eyes, but stepped inside anyway. Shut up. He closed the door behind me, and just like that. It felt normal. Easy. Like this wasn't new anymore. Like this was just us. I turned to face him, crossing my arms slightly, trying to ignore the way my chest was already tightening again. We need to talk, I said. His eyebrow lifted slightly. That sounds serious. It is. He didn't joke after that. Didn't brush it off. Just stepped closer, giving me his full attention. All right, he said. Talk. And yeah, my brain immediately tried to bail. Because saying it out loud made it real. But I'd already come this far. I wasn't backing out now. I exhaled slowly. I don't think I'm figuring this out the way I thought I would. Arnold didn't interrupt. Didn't rush me. Just listened. I kept thinking I needed time. I continued. Needed to understand what this is before I did anything with it. A small pause. But that's not really how this works, is it? His expression softened slightly. No, he said quietly. It's not. I nodded. Yeah. Silence settled between us again, but this time, it wasn't heavy. It felt clear. I don't have all the answers, I admitted. Didn't expect you to. I let out a small breath, then looked at him fully. But I know one thing. He waited. Like he always did. And this time, I didn't hesitate. I don't want you to stop. The words landed between us, simple, but solid. Real. And for the first time since this all started, I didn't feel unsure saying it. Arnold's gaze didn't waver. Didn't flicker. If anything, something in it settled. Like he'd been waiting for exactly that. Good, he said softly. I huffed a quiet laugh. You really like that word. Only when it matters. That again. And yeah, it still hit. He stepped closer, slow, giving me space to move if I wanted to. I didn't. His hand came up, resting against my side like it had 100 times already, but this time, it felt different. More certain. More grounded. Because I'm not planning to stop, he added. My chest tightened, but not in that overwhelming, confusing way from before. This time, it felt right. I figured, I said. A small smile tugged at his mouth. Yeah. You're starting to. I shook my head slightly, but I couldn't stop the smile forming on my own face. Don't get cocky. Too late. I laughed under my breath, and that was it. That was the moment everything finally settled into place. Not because we defined it. Not because we had all the answers. But because we didn't need them. Not yet. Arnold's hand shifted slightly, pulling me closer, just enough to close that last bit of space between us. You still overthinking it? He murmured. Less, I admitted. Good. I rolled my eyes lightly, but didn't pull away. Didn't want to. Don't ruin it, I muttered. He just smirked slightly. Then kissed me. And this time, it wasn't about tension. Or uncertainty. Or figuring things out. It was steady. Certain. Like everything we'd been circling around finally landed somewhere real. And standing there, in his apartment, with his hand steady against me and that same quiet confidence grounding everything, I realized something I probably should have seen coming from the start. He wasn't just looking for a reason to be around. He'd already found it. And somehow,